Welcome back to the channel. All right, we haven't done some TA in a while, so this is going to be fun. We're going to go through and we are going to talk about what's been going on the charts with, first we'll do Bitcoin, then we'll do Ethereum, then we'll do EGLD, then we'll do Cardano. So Bitcoin, Ethereum, EGLD, Cardano. And in between Bitcoin and Ethereum, I'm going to go over a couple of short news articles, and I'm going to give you a little bit of news on Cardano when we get there. Well, let's go ahead and get started. Make sure you like the video, make sure you subscribe, check out the Twitch channel. All my links are in the description if you want to check anything out. And let's do this. All right, so Bitcoin. First of all, with Bitcoin, I'll be honest with you, Bitcoin has been looking tremendously good, like to the point where it's looking like it's getting ready to burst at any minute. Now, that doesn't mean it might not have a little more downside until that happens, but I mean, take a look at this chart. I mean, if you're looking at just the VPVR profile on the right, look at the volume profile right now. We're putting in significant volume at these levels, and that's volume without even having a burst. If you look down here at the actual volume, this is all on the 4-hour chart. When you look at these volume bars down at the bottom, what you're seeing here is that the volume has been staying pretty steady at the levels that I'm lining out right now, right? But we haven't even had a burst like this. So the question is, if we're holding the price at around 58 to 60,000 without even having a burst of volume, what happens when we have the next burst of volume? I mean, take a look at this entire section here where the price went up from about 49,000 all the way to 58,000. So roughly a $10,000 move over the course of 4 days, roughly. The volume never had a huge, massive spike. So that means you're getting consistent buying. This yellow line here was our previous prediction. We made this prediction when the price was actually pretty low. It was at around 47, so that's already played out. Let's delete it, and we'll save the chart. Now, what that tells me is that at a certain point in time, volume's going to come back. Okay, the volume's going to come back like it did in these areas. So when we see a spike here, this was during a dip, this was during a pretty major rise. But when you have these massive spikes of volume, it usually cements a new direction for a short period of time. We haven't had that, and we've already cemented the value staying at around 58 to 60K. And honestly, more trading in this area would be great, but I don't know how long it's going to last, because we're reaching a point now where enough volume is coming in at this range that I think people are going to be buying in more. People are going to be seeing it as a more stable bet. Because think about all the people that bought Bitcoin at 28,000, 29, 30,000, and they sold it when it hit 40 because they thought it topped out. Well, then it dropped down to 30 and they thought they made a great move. Now it's sitting at 58. So a lot of people got out of Bitcoin at the wrong time. And that's because a lot of people don't understand it. They don't see it as a reserve currency. They see it as a get-rich-quick scheme. And that kind of applies to a lot of other assets like EGLD and Cardano and even Ethereum. And the thing is, at a certain point, you have to not look at these assets as a get-rich-quick scheme. You have to realize what are the ones that I would rather hold instead of holding fiat currency like US dollars or yen or whatever your other fiat currency is. The fiat currencies are managed by, for the most part, corrupt governments and banks. Not all of them are completely corrupt, but there's at least corruption to a certain level. That just happens when you have human beings in charge of things. When you have something decentralized based on a voting platform like Bitcoin, you can't make changes to it. It's set in stone. So when you have something like that, you're suddenly taking out one of the biggest risks of fiat currency, which is the manipulation that people can do to it. You can't do that with Bitcoin. And now we're in an age of time where fiat is so manipulated that it's being printed to a point where people are just scared to hold it. Bitcoin is starting to seem like a much better option. So I think you should keep that in mind with where the price is now, and also with the fact that, you know, what would be a good reason to sell Bitcoin right now? What are you going to do with your money if you sell Bitcoin? Where are you going to put it that it's going to be safer? I can't really think of a good answer to that, which is why I don't sell my Bitcoin. And honestly, you know, I can't give financial advice, but if you can tell me a reason why you think it's worth selling Bitcoin, you know, obviously if you have like a medical issue and you need money to pay the hospital bills, that's a good reason. But I'm talking about if you have a situation where you're going to hold your money long term, what is a better option right now? And people are starting to figure that out. A lot of wealthy people are figuring that out. And as they do, what happens? The price doesn't drop much, because when it does, they buy it. Look at the amount of green candles we've had here. These green candles are showing me that a lot of people are buying Bitcoin at these levels. They don't care that the price is 58,000 because they know that it's going to be 100,000. And if you're buying in at 58,000 and expecting the price to go to 100K, it's a pretty good buy. You know, Bitcoin was a good buy at 10,000, and at 10,000 people were talking about, oh, Bitcoin's too expensive. 20,000 people talking about Bitcoin too expensive. They were saying it's too expensive every $10,000. So you're always going to have people saying that it's too expensive. But the thing you got to figure out is, where is it headed? So anyways, that's the thing about Bitcoin. I think there's a reason that it's staying so stable, and that's the reason. It's because people don't have a better place to put their money. So anyways, we see that as far as the chart itself goes, what we're really putting in here is an upward trend line. And you're seeing the trend line that we're sticking on is one that we've had drawn here for a very long time. I'm going to turn off a few things so you can see it more clearly. We'll get rid of the TD sequential and the moving averages for right now. So when we look at the pattern here, basically, this is creating somewhat of an ascending channel, and we are following this yellow line. And what I'm really looking to see here is, how do we interact with this yellow line whenever we touch it? The first thing we did is that we went above the yellow line. So we hit support on it here, right? When it dropped a little bit, we hit support on it in these two areas. Then we came up to a higher level. We crossed below it and then came back and flipped it as support. Now we've gone above it again, and once again we're getting support. So we have really seen this yellow line cement itself as support. Now the interesting thing about it is, when you look at that yellow line on a longer time frame, like look at that yellow line. All right, when you zoom out and you look at that yellow line, that is a pretty straightforward uptrend. It is not very sideways. That line, if we hold it, is taking the price up, and it's taking it up very quick. That yellow line towards the end of April 25th, a month from now, that yellow line sits at $71,000. Which means that if the price goes there within the next month, if we hold this line as support, you are looking for the potential of the price of Bitcoin to go up by roughly 22% from where it is right now. That's a pretty big move. I think that that's very likely, and I think that that probably is going to happen, and I have a feeling it might happen a little bit before we think. I think what will probably happen with Bitcoin is that it'll go sideways a little bit longer, possibly dip back down a little, and then it's going to shoot up and it's going to hit this upper trend line. And that's probably going to be somewhere around 70 to 76,000, somewhere in that 70 to 70, well, let's just say 70 to 75K, somewhere in that range. We'll probably see the price hike up there, and then we'll see it correct like it did here, And when it corrects down, most likely it'll come back and touch the yellow line. That's kind of what I'm looking for. This is a very crude prediction, but you know me, I love to keep my predictions, so I will lock this in place and we'll just keep a look at it. We'll see. Does this prediction kind of hold true? So we'll see what happens. I think that's what we're looking at for Bitcoin chart-wise. There's nothing else really standing out, right? The RSI is looking great. Volume's looking great. I mean, the price is moving great without a lot of red, and it's not really giving us a reason to believe that there's going to be much more red. If there is and it drops, we know that we have very, very strong support at the 50,000 level. And honestly, I would love for Bitcoin to go back down to 50K. That would be beautiful. I would be buying more Bitcoin at 50K. Heck, I picked up a little bit more Bitcoin at 59. I picked some up at 57, at 55. I've been buying it the whole way because why wouldn't I? It's just a smart decision to put, like when I get my paycheck, if I put a little bit of it into Bitcoin, I feel better. I know that portion of that paycheck is safe. So dollar cost averaging for me is a great strategy. I love it. It's worked out really well. And I hope some of you guys implement that. That's pretty much it for Bitcoin. I mean, there's not much else for me to show you on the chart. The chart's looking great. Everything fundamentally is looking great. And at this point with Bitcoin, if it goes up, awesome. If it goes down, awesome. Goes down, you can buy more. Goes up, you're doing good. There's no downside here, in my opinion. So I'm loving it. I'm really, really loving it. And I'm going to save the chart. The chart link is in the description below. In all my YouTube videos, you'll see it there. And yeah, just check it out. You can look at it whenever you want. Okay, so a couple of news articles for Bitcoin. We're going to move on to Ethereum, all right? So the first thing with Bitcoin, this is very interesting. This is an article on Bitcoin.com news. So it says here, the Visa CEO anticipates that cryptocurrency could become extremely mainstream within 5 years. He is working to position Visa in the middle of it should cryptocurrency take off. He further confirmed that Visa is working to allow Bitcoin purchases by enabling the currency to be used at 70 million stores where Visa is accepted. That's pretty big news, because if they're seeing that as being the future of Bitcoin just 5 years from now, you can only imagine what that means for the price, okay? Just keep it in mind. Very, very interesting. I'm not going to go into the rest of the article because that's really the main takeaway. All right, now this one is very important, okay? Global banking agent, I always say this wrong. Deutsche Bank? Deutsche? Is that how you say it? Deutsche Bank. I don't know how to say it. Whatever. The D-Bank expects governments to start regulating Bitcoin by the end of 2021. Sounds scary, but let's find out a few more things. Bitcoin's market cap of $1 trillion and potential for continued growth have made the cryptocurrency too important to ignore, according to the Deutsche Bank analysts. The bank analyst suggested that the price could continue to rise further as long as asset managers and companies continue to enter the market, which they are. Asset managers and companies are continuing to enter the market. We've seen that is a big trend this year, and it's not going anywhere. Then we see here, it says central banks and governments now understand that Bitcoin and other companies, cryptocurrencies are here to stay. Read that again. Central banks and governments now understand that Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies are here to stay. That is absolutely true. They do understand that now, and the more they realize that, they are going to want to leverage it. So keep it in mind. Big deal. Very big deal. All right, and then the last thing we read here. Now, this is where you got to think outside the box, because when I read this, I was really like, wait a minute, what does that mean? So let's read it, and then we'll analyze it. It says, Bitcoin is expected to remain ultra volatile in the short term. The Deutsche Bank analyst concluded, forecasting a turning point for Bitcoin in the next 2 or 3 years as a consensus about its future may emerge. All right, now let's break that down. They are saying that the price is expected to remain ultra volatile in the short term. So that means ultra volatile. What does that mean? That means that you could have 20, 30% drops, 20, 30% rises. That's ultra volatile, right? The price is going to keep moving with a pretty high standard deviation. Then they say they're forecasting a turning point in the next 2 or 3 years. That means that they're saying that maybe in the next 2 or 3 years, the price isn't going to be that volatile anymore. You get where I'm going here? Okay, for Bitcoin's price to not be volatile anymore, it has to be very, very high, because then you're going to have less people trading it, less people wanting to sell it. They're going to want to hold it, right? They're going to want to use it for stuff. They're going to keep putting money into it, right? You're not going to see much volatility when that happens. But in order for that to happen, and this is the Deutsche Bank saying this, all right? They're saying that they forecast a turning point in the next 2 or 3 years. But for now, it's going to remain ultra volatile. When I read between the lines, that is telling me that they are expecting adoption of Bitcoin to not only increase, but increase to a point where volatility will decrease. Okay? Now remember, the volatility of gold is not very high. Gold has a $12 trillion market cap, and it remains fairly stable. Even now, it's down quite a bit over the last few months. But if you look at gold on a larger time scale, it's been fairly reasonable in its price levels. It's held value for a good amount of time. But now, as Bitcoin's rising, the value of gold is dropping. So as Bitcoin keeps going up, maybe what they're telling us here is that in the next 2 or 3 years, Bitcoin could replace gold and have a $12 trillion market cap. And when it does, it's going to be much more stable or achieve the stability of gold. That's what I'm seeing here. I think that you guys got to take that on your own and decide what it means for you. But I think that that's a very telling statement from one of the largest banks in the world, saying that they are expecting it to be ultra volatile for now, but they expect it to be stable in the next 2 to 3 years. That's a big deal. So keep it in mind. I thought that was really interesting. I hope you got something from that. Now we're going to move on to Ethereum. All right, let's go ahead and kick it off with Ethereum now. All right, so with Ethereum, we have seen, first of all, we have gone way past this Fibonacci retracement. So let's go ahead and redraw this Fib retracement. This is what happens when you don't have time to do TA. All right, hang on a sec. Let me unlock this. And we are going to take this Fib retracement. We're going to keep it at the 2000 level. And we're going to expand it out. So the trend line here is touching the bottoms of these candles. And it's somewhere relative to the top of this area here. We're going to lock it, and then we're going to go into the settings, and we are going to go to coordinates, and we're going to set the levels exactly like we want them. We want this to be at $2,000, and 1280 is perfect for that. We'll click OK, and we'll save. Actually, we're not going to save this because I don't want to overwrite my other chart. Okay, so basically what we're seeing here is that Ethereum has been holding this center trend line. It fell below it for a period of time, and now it's holding it. Now, when it's holding this trend line, the one thing that you want to know is that what's really key is how it interacts with this red line here. Okay, this is our 236 line. Now, our 236 line here basically is the line that we have continually fell below. So you will see here that we hit it here, we got resistance. We fell below it here, we got resistance here, we fell below it here, and we fell below it again here. Well, this is more resistance, and now we need to know, are we gonna hit resistance there again? Because the key is for us to break that 236 line. Once we break that 236 line with Ethereum, then basically what you're going to look for ETH to do on a chart perspective is you're going to look for it to trade in this zone. So there's a trading zone for Ethereum right at the top. So if you look at this red area at the top of the screen, this trading zone is where it needs to put in volume. You'll see on the right-hand side, the volume really tapers off in this zone. So that means there's not much support there, and that's why it's fallen through that level every single time. But now we're reaching a point where the trend line is starting to meet the 236 line. So you can kind of see the triangle, right? I don't know if you notice it, but I'm going to show it to you. So if you take a line here, let's make this quite visible, right? So we take this line here, all right? And then we take another trend line and we look at this line here. All right, now you see the triangle there. All right, this is basically a triangle showing us that the price is reaching a consolidation point. Okay, I'm going to disable the Fib retracement so you can see it even better. Okay, so you see that there? Now what we're putting in this area is we're putting in enough trading volume to know that once we reach the apex of this triangle, we're going to be expecting a move. Now, these triangles that we're looking at right now, they can fall in either direction, and most of the time they actually fall bearish. You know, these can really go in a bearish direction. Now, if they do, then, you know, that bearish move could be like even down to here, and then you could be putting in a new trend line right there. So it's not really, even though it's bearish, it's not bearish enough for us to say that this is going to be a massive drop, but I see a lot of things adding up here. Okay, one of them being that the price is getting consolidated into this area, and once it gets into this area, it's going to have to make a decision, and it's going to go one way or the other. The other thing is that the volume has consistently been dropping, just like we saw on Bitcoin and EGLD and everything else. The volume's dropping. Eventually, the volume is going to come back, and once that volume comes back, if it's during the time that the price is in this apex of this triangle, we're likely going to see a move. Personally, I think we're probably going to break out of this. Even though this is normally a bearish move, the sentiment overall, so market sentiment is a very important thing. You can't always do your chart analysis strictly on how patterns repeat all the time, because other things go into play. Market sentiment is basically how do the people feel about the project. And people are very bullish on Ethereum, especially with all the strides being made with DeFi. So that tells me that market sentiment is not matching the way that the chart looks. Essentially meaning to me that Ethereum's undervalued. And if Ethereum is undervalued and it's putting in a lot of volume at its current prices, that stands to reason for Ethereum to make a breakout. And if it does make a breakout, then I'm expecting the price of Ethereum to not only break past 2,000, but possibly 2,100, and then come and flip 2,000 as a support line. Or maybe even come back down and touch this trend line, which is sitting somewhere around 1950. So if we go past 2,100, then I would expect coming back and touching 2,000 or 1950, seeing support at those levels, and then slowly starting another trend up. Potentially, you could see a little bit of the opposite, right? You could see the drop down to around 1,600, because at that level, we've seen resistance, we've seen support, we've seen trading in this area. So coming back down and testing that 1,600 to 1,700 level and putting in more trading in this range, that's a possibility too. And if we do that, then we'll probably have a much stronger move when we break out, right? We'll probably have a move past 22 or 2,300 when there's a massive breakout. So, you know, if you see that move back down to 16, 1,700, for me, that's going to be a good time to buy more Ethereum. For other people, it might be a good time to sell. And if they do, well, that's their loss, you know, long term, if that's what you're looking at. I mean, we don't know how Ethereum is going to do in the next 5 years. I mean, you'd assume that the network effect it has would make it go a lot higher. But I think that what we're looking at now is for a move to be made by at latest the 25th or 26th of March, which is, you know, we're talking about a week from now. It could happen a lot sooner. Sometimes these moves happen when you're starting to reach the end of the apex, but not even when you're getting close to the actual apex. So for example, you could see the price kind of break out of here a little bit and then come back into this area and then just have a move up. You know, that's a possibility too, especially now when we're at a time where so many companies are starting to look for reasons to get into these assets. And you got Grayscale purchasing Ethereum for their trust. I mean, who knows how many other companies are buying Ethereum without even letting people know. I mean, for a company to buy it, they have to disclose it if they're a public company. But the CEOs of those companies don't have to disclose a damn thing if they're doing it with their own money. So there could be a lot of rich people buying into Ethereum that are going to move the price without even realizing it, because they're consolidating it into an inflection point. So keep it in mind, we're looking at that. But as far as news goes, for right now, the main thing with Ethereum is, when does ETH 2.0 become active, and when do the gas fees go away? I've been talking about that for a long time. When that happens, Ethereum, in my opinion, is going to explode and the price is going to move up dramatically very quickly. All right, so we will move forward now. All right, let's keep going. We've been doing good so far. We got the Bitcoin down. We got the Ethereum down. Let's move on to EGLD. All right, with EGLD. EGLD has been really, really interesting, man. EGLD is pretty much doing not just a massive consolidation, but the great thing about this consolidation is that it is holding price so well. And I'm telling you, when I look at the volume for EGLD, I am loving what I'm seeing. I mean, look at this volume, okay? The volume has just diminished so much. It is incredible. Now, I know what you're thinking. There are a lot of people, I've been seeing people post things on Twitter, and you know, some people have commented and asked me questions like, hey, what happened to the volume for EGLD? You know, there's not much volume. Like, people aren't trading it. What's happening? Like, you don't want to see volume with EGLD, right? If you're trying to buy it, you don't want to see volume. You want to see the price staying at a level that it's worth buying. 134, in my opinion, it's worth buying. Right? So I've already picked up more EGLD. I've bought more EGLD when it dipped down here to around 100, 105. I think I bought at 100, I bought at 105 and 115. And you know what? I might even pick up a little bit more where it is now, 134. I think it's a great buy point. I was waiting to see if we'd get another drop, so I might be able to buy it cheaper. But it's reaching a point where I'm just not sure that's going to happen. It's very difficult to see that now. Okay, so basically, we were looking for a move at the end of this triangle. We got it. We dropped down below the triangle and we've set a new trend. So let's first take a look at our new trend. Okay, let's get that set up. So let's do this. We'll come in here. We're going to take our trend line from the bottom. Let's unlock it actually. And let's grab this guy. Let's move this trend line to the bottom of these candles. All right. Now, there's no exact science to this. You know, some people may say, hey, why aren't you touching these candles right here? Well, because I like to touch more candles, because I know that means that that trend line has been hit more times. So in this case, if I go with these trend line or these lines here, I know that that trend line's accurate in this section. That's what I care about. That's the more recent section. Now, as far as the top goes, we need to look more here. And we are basically just going to come over and hold this, okay, right at the top of those. There we go. And now what we can do is we can extend this out, and then we can bring this back. So that's kind of how I do it. Nothing fancy, you know, the kind of TA that I do is not to make it look great, but it's to figure out timelines, figure out when I might see things. You know, I'm not here to make it look pretty. I mean, it's nice if it looks nice, but whatever. Okay, so let's take a look now. When we look at this triangle, basically what we're seeing here with EGLD is quite simple. We are seeing that we're still in a massive, massive consolidation, right? We haven't gotten out of it yet. But we are seeing that within this consolidation, that the price is becoming more and more stable. I mean, look at the zone we're trading in, right? So what we're gonna do is we're gonna come in here and we're gonna grab a rectangle. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna find the area here where we've had the most trading activity. So that's basically this area here, right? There's two ways that I know this. Number one, I know that these are where the majority of the candles are when I'm just looking at it. Number two, I can also see that on the right-hand side of my chart, this is where we see the peak of our volume. So we know that this zone is kind of an important zone. So we can leave this zone in our chart. We'll lock it into place so we can take a look at it. Now we're going to zoom in so we can see everything a little bit better. Now, when we zoom in on this 4 hour, what you see is that we're at the bottom of that zone. So what we really want to see now is two things. We want to see more trading activity if we can below that zone, because we know that once we break this zone, we have a lot of support on it. But the good thing to do is to put in a solid foundation below a zone of support. We don't have the greatest foundation. It's much better than it was before. When we were looking at these charts a few weeks ago, the support did not look even half as good as it does now. It looks tremendous now. But I'm never going to argue with the price of an asset that I think is going to go to 1,000 or higher trading at a lower price. If it trades lower, that's just an opportunity. So I'm hoping that it drops a bit more. So, you know, there's a good opportunity to buy some more anywhere from 100 to 120. But I'm starting to think that that's less and less likely to happen. And part of the reason is because the volume has tapered off so much. I think what's going to happen is that the next phase of the bull run is going to kick off sometime soon. And when it does and all the altcoins start booming, I think EGLD is probably going to be one of the ones that leads in gains, that leads in overall price appreciation, because it's also one of the ones that's making the most progress in the features it has. EGLD's about to release a whole slew of DeFi features onto its blockchain. And with these features come tremendous amount of usability for the blockchain. So right now it has a great use case as a store of value, right? We all know the EGLD economics are terrific. If you haven't seen it, look at one of my previous videos on the EGLD DeFi 2.0 and economics. I just did that last week. And I think I covered a lot of that information. It's important to know because not only can you use EGLD as a store of value, but if these other features, if all the DeFi features pick up, it's really going to be a massive competitor to the Binance blockchain, to the Ethereum blockchain. It's going to offer a lot of what the Cardano chain offers. So there's a whole lot of new people that are going to be coming in to use the DeFi features of Elrond because of its low transaction cost, the speed of the blockchain, and its availability. And then once you see in the future when Maiar, you can, like, they have an app called Maiar, right? For anyone who doesn't know. Once you can buy EGLD on Maiar in the United States, a gigantic market's going to open up, because then you're going to have people that can not only buy and hold their eGold on Maiar, but they can also use it for transactions between one another. Right now, the only option that you really have is to use like Venmo or PayPal, right? But a lot of people don't want to keep their money in US dollars. They want to keep it in something that's appreciating, or that, you know, they can at least gain some value on. So, you know, why not keep it in Maiar and use Maiar to send people money? You know, you can start using it. Like, let's say you go to dinner with a few friends and one of your friends pays and you need to give him the money for the meal. I would send it to my friends in eGold. You know, why wouldn't I? It would be much better. So that's what I'm looking at. I think that as these markets open up for eGold and we break out of this consolidation, this is just going to go bananas. It's going to go crazy. And I think what's going to end up happening is, when we look at the eGold chart, this whole consolidation here is going to end up looking like this. It's going to look like that. It's going to look tiny, because the price is probably going to go so far higher from here. It'll be trading at like 600-700 or higher at some point, that this consolidation, you'll just remember. The only reason you'll even remember it is because we went over it in these videos, right? Otherwise, you won't even remember it if you're in this for the long term, right? And remember, nothing I say is financial advice. I could be wrong about all this, but I personally believe in the project because I understand the project. I know about it, and I see the use of decentralized finance, and I see the fact that Elrond has built not only a blockchain, but the architecture behind that blockchain is far better than a lot of the competitors right now. And Elrond's undervalued because people have not seen the value for it. They're going to see the value. It's going to happen. And eventually, I think Elrond will trade on Coinbase. It'll trade on Coinbase Pro. It'll end up having Maiar available for buying eGold in the United States. And as all these things happen, a lot of people are going to wish that they got into it at this point in time and just held it and just didn't sell. You know, staked it, earned their rewards. And those are the people that are really going to do well with eGold. Now, keep in mind that this is just my opinion, not financial advice. And a lot of this, like with any other altcoin, okay? So with Bitcoin, you don't really have to worry about what I'm about to tell you. But with Ethereum, Cardano, Polkadot, eGold, all these other coins, you have to worry about the people behind it, because they control the project, right? It is not completely decentralized, because if the people who are running the Elrond project or Ethereum project, if they stop running it and making updates or whatever it is they're doing, then the coin will likely drop in value. Whereas with Bitcoin, nobody has to do that. You don't care what anyone says. Everyone can confidently put their money in Bitcoin because they know that there's so many mining nodes all around the world and so many people use it as a store of value that you're not worried about any single group of people. That's the one big downside to any other altcoin. So even though I'm very bullish on this altcoin, you need to understand the risks. And you need to know that when you invest in something like this, you gotta not only believe in the project, but you have to believe in the people behind the project. And the people behind the Elrond project are very smart people, in my opinion. So I think that they're gonna do great things, and I think that they're trustworthy, and I think that they have a proven track record, especially with their intellectual capacity in the IT infrastructure area, because the adaptive sharding infrastructure they've built behind Elrond is pretty genius. They've solved a lot of the problems that are holding back other DeFi platforms, and they've fixed those with Elrond. So Elrond it's undervalued because I think people just don't know. People just don't know about it yet. And when they see all these features go live and people start using it and starting to see the benefit, then I think people are going to find out, and a lot of people are going to start buying it. So keep it in mind. That's what I'm looking at. And the final thing that I'm going to look at for Elrond is the TD sequential. Let's see if that shows us anything. Not much on the TD sequential on the 4 hour. Let's look at the TD sequential on the daily chart. Daily chart TD sequential is looking really good. It went down 6 points throughout this little consolidation phase, and now it's back putting in some green candles and kind of going into that area where not only are we re-entering our support zone, but we're also getting towards the end of this apex. So quite interesting. You'll see we had a 9 flash in green here on the 7th, and since then we started the downtrend, which is completely expected. Now let's take a look at the weekly chart. This is a great thing to see on the weekly chart. Okay, so on the weekly chart, we know that there was a green 9 flash on the TD sequential back in January. And since then, the price went up so high that it was very overextended. Now it's consolidated and the price has reset on the TD sequential. We're starting to see the red candles on, or not the red candles, but the red numbers on the TD sequential, which means that the TD sequential on the weekly is reset and we're getting to a point where it can begin another rise. So keep it in mind. What I want to see here, what I'd love to see, if it does, if it could do this, if EGLD could just keep going down and go down to like 100 over the next week or two, 3 weeks maybe, then what we would end up seeing is a few more of these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like maybe a few more reds in the TD sequential on the weekly chart. And we would get some great opportunities to buy it cheaper before it has a massive rise up. That's what I'm hoping for. I don't know if it's going to happen. I mean, even looking at the weekly chart RSI, the RSI is starting to come back to the 70 level. And during bull markets, some assets, they don't go below the 70 level on the weekly RSI. They hit that 70 level and then they keep moving. So we could see if that happens. But right now, it's looking good. Looking good. Personally, I'm hoping for a little bit more downside. I want to see it go down a little bit more so I can pick up some more at better prices. Even though I think the right now price is really good, but I would rather buy it cheaper. You know, who wouldn't? All right, that's pretty much it for EGLD. We are going to now take a look at Cardano and wrap it up for the day with Cardano. All right, so Cardano, my friends. Cardano has seen, oh, you know what? Hang on a second. Let's go back to EGLD real quick. I want to take a look at the moving averages. Okay, so the moving averages are all looking good on EGLD. They're all getting constricted. This tells me that we are definitely on the right track with this triangle. So let's leave it there. No, it doesn't tell us much more except for the fact that the price is severely constricted and a price movement is going to happen very, very soon. You know, sometime within the next week based on this triangle's timeline. Could be sooner. Okay, back to Cardano. So with Cardano, basically what we have seen is a lot of different price movement. And the reason we have seen this price movement is because of this. Cardano's ADA is now tradable on Coinbase. Cardano finally got its Coinbase listing. Now, not only did it get its Coinbase listing, but it actually started with Coinbase Pro. So it says here, days after being listed on Coinbase Pro, Cardano's ADA token is available to Coinbase retail traders for the first time. So it was first released on Coinbase Pro. A few days later, it was released on the regular Coinbase. And that Coinbase listing came in when the price was like down here. So basically what happened is Coinbase listing comes in, price has a big spike because people are going to anticipate huge price movement. Then what you end up seeing is that the price drops a little bit. It came back, but the great thing is when it dropped, it got support at this green line, which was $1.18. So this green line we already know is a cemented area of support and resistance. We saw support here, we saw support here, we saw resistance here, we saw resistance here, here, and now we're seeing support here. So we've seen enough resistance at this green line to know that if it's being flipped into support now and it holds as support, then this becomes a springboard for the price. And we're really looking at the price now to cross below $1.40 and then $1.50. I want to see the price of Cardano come up below or above this trend line. So you have this trend line here. I want to see the price go above that trend line. So move in this type of direction and then hit like the $1.70 level. At that point in time, we're gonna come back to this chart. We're gonna get rid of this old triangle. I'm keeping it there for now because I wanna see if the price goes back into this level, then I might have to redraw that triangle a bit longer. For now, I don't have to, but we'll see if we need to come back to it. But seeing the price break out of this $1.70 level is really what we're looking at. And right now, you just can't predict the price of Cardano because look what's happened with the volume. You know, like I said, volume goes in cycles, right? So you had a huge downtrend of volume here, and now you had the next cycle of volume come into Cardano. Granted that cycle wasn't a natural cycle, right? That was a cycle based on the news that it's being listed on Coinbase. Because of that, there was a huge pump. So now what could happen is the natural cycle could kick back in, and over the next few weeks, you know, maybe even 1 week, you might see a lot more people that are starting to learn about Cardano, wanting to purchase Cardano. And as they do, it's very possible that we see the price take a massive, massive move up. And honestly, at this point, with Cardano getting its Coinbase listing and the price being so stable in this area and putting in such a massive amount of support. I mean, look at the amount of support that's between $1 and $1.30. There's a lot. It's hard to imagine at this point Cardano taking a dive below $1 again. I think that whoever bought Cardano when it dropped below $1 in this little area here, they got lucky. They were able to pick it up a little cheaper. You know, not a lot of people got that opportunity once it broke $1 for the first time. It didn't come back below $1 for too long. So at this point in time, people waiting to pick up Cardano below $1, they might be in for a rude awakening. That might not happen anymore, because now you're going to see a lot more people getting into Cardano, learning about the project, finding out about it, and adding it to their portfolios on Coinbase. Because, I mean, take a look at this, right? This tells us the Coinbase users, all right? Let's only look at the last 4 years, okay? In the year 2018, there was 22 million users on Coinbase. In 2019, there was 30 million. 2020, 35 million. 2021, 43 million. In 2022, there's going to be even more than 2021. This number is growing year over year. And the reason it's growing is because as time goes on, people are figuring out what cryptocurrency it really is, and it's the future of money. And as they start to figure that out, they all want to hold some of it. Cardano is going to be one of the big ones because Cardano is a great project. So as we start to learn more about how this plays out, I think Cardano is looking to break $2. I don't know when that's going to happen, but I think that now with the Coinbase listing, it's very feasible that during the next phase of this bull cycle, when Bitcoin takes a massive rise and then all the altcoins start to follow, ADA will probably go up to $1.70, $1.80, $1.90 and start flirting with the $2 mark. I think it's going to hit a lot of resistance at $2. So if it hits $2, I don't think I'd buy there, but I definitely think that that could be a decent area to take some profits if you're a trader and then try to buy it back when it drops lower. So if I was trading it, I would probably be looking at anywhere from $1.80 to $2 as being like a selling range, and then looking to buy back at like below $1.60 or $1.50 when it consolidates. Not financial advice, just what I would do if I was trading, and I don't trade anymore. So I don't do that type of trading anymore because I think you can do equivalently well if you just buy and hold the right assets. So I prefer to do that. Okay, that's pretty much it for Cardano. I think we've covered everything, you guys. Thank you for joining me today. I apologize for the long video. I think we hit like 40 minutes again, but whatever. We didn't do one all week, so you deserved a longer one today. And I'll get back to you guys in a couple of days. You know, I don't think we're going to have that big of a break again, but we'll see. If there's going to be that big of a break, I'll let you know on Twitter. So make sure you check in my description box below. You can find my Twitter account. You can find my Twitch account. And follow me there. You'll get to see these videos live stream on Twitch if you ever want to do that. After we live stream these videos on Twitch, we then go ahead and we do a Q&A, which is specific to Twitch. That's only for the people who decide to join the live streams. On YouTube, you see these videos, and you know, if that's what you want to see, you don't want to really see the Q&A stuff, that's cool. No problem. Maybe at some point in the future, I'll create separate videos on YouTube, maybe a separate channel where I include all of the Q&A stuff. That's a possibility. All right, you guys, I appreciate you. Have a wonderful weekend. Trade safely, do your risk management, research your assets, make sure you know what's going on. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, send me a comment, message me on Twitter, follow me there, whatever. I'll see you soon. Have a wonderful weekend. Peace.